Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I am one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the rebranded New Direction, Josh Finney.
Oh my god. I don't know what I was expecting when they said there was going to be a major studio update during HCS yesterday, but oh boy, I don't know if I quite expected this.
No, I was expecting like a new season of Halo Infinite to launch or something.
Yeah, which it's funny that was like the footnote in all of that. I thought that, I mean, when they announced the third person view earlier in the weekend, I thought that was probably the big announcement. Just like, oh, maybe they're going to go more in depth, you know, if people didn't see that on the stream or something like that. And then you see that the game director, the art director, and the head of comms are all sitting there at the desk, and you're like, okay. And it was pretty bad that right away Pierre had to go, yeah, it's not a new game announcement. Because and it was just like, oh my god, you could just see the disappointment forming in chat. I don't know what people expected this to be. I certainly didn't expect this. I thought like maybe we get a true tease for like Battle Royale or something. Because they started using words like the new direction, the next chapter, things like that. And we were all like, okay, so you've already introduced the third party or the third person view. Like it would make sense to announce a thing here, or maybe a new multimedia project or something. And I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. And I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're gonna talk pretty in depth about it here in a second, but yeah, I don't know what I expected.
It wasn't this.
No. Halo Worlds was fun to watch. It was really frustrating seeing the multiple disconnects during a LAN event. This has been something that's plagued Halo Infinite its whole time. Like, just another woe in the competitive scene, I think. But outside of that, like it was a pretty fun weekend to watch. There were a few teams that made some amazing runs that were like never on anybody's radar before this. Including one that placed top 4, so that was really cool to see. I always like seeing unknown teams, or you know, especially like talent that has never won a championship before. I like seeing that too. Space Station wins their first title. 2 of their guys, it was their second time winning a title. Just the first time on this team. And I think Optic made something like their 7th or 8th grand finals in a row. Just absolutely bonkers. So really, really cool to see all that. It was a good time. It's one of the only esports I actively enjoy watching. So
nice. Yeah. This was this was a strange. I forgot HCS was going on this weekend, by the way. I just kind of, I don't know. I just kind of
snuck up on me. I couldn't, because they just did a major in Salt Lake 4 or 5 weeks ago. So this one really snuck up on me. I know they usually do it in October, but it was like, oh man, September just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
So
I know it's already October.
I was very surprised to see this just kind of come swooping in out of nowhere. But
yeah, but
yeah, it was cool though.
Yeah, I was like, why are they announcing stuff on a Sunday? That's weird. But I'm like, oh wait, that's happening, right?
Yeah. Well, before we get into the minutia of the announcement, do we want to talk really quickly about what we've been playing?
Yeah, because I've been playing a lot. I've actually been playing something really something I've been putting off for years at this point. I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima actually quite a bit. I'm like 20 hours in, and I'm just like every little piece of the map. I if there's a marker, I'm going there. I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna slice some bamboo. I'm gonna follow a fox. I'm gonna, I don't know, get naked in a hot bath, whatever they're called.
I had a lot of fun with Ghost of Tsushima. For my money, it's still the best PlayStation exclusive of the last couple generations. I think personally, maybe it's not the best, but it was absolutely my favorite game that they did on the PS4, and I don't think anything they've done on PS5 has quite topped it for me yet. As much as I loved God of War Ragnarok, I don't know if Ragnarok quite topped it for me. But it's like a 1-2 punch.
Mm.
as far as I'm concerned. Very, very good game. I really need to play the Iki Island expansion. I never did get around to that. I bought it and then just never played it.
Yeah. I bought that director's cut with everything in it.
Yeah.
So I will probably just do the Iki Island expansion when it becomes available at
It's
some
been
point.
available.
No, I mean like in the story, like when
Oh,
it's
oh,
like,
gotcha. Gotcha.
opens up or whatever. But man, this sure is an Assassin's Creed game. A smaller one, but definitely the way the map is laid out and like just all the little things, and it's a checklist game, and it's a Corey game. So um my only complaint right now is that I really wish the camera wasn't so zoomed in. Like I wish it was pulled out a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and I wish you could lock on to enemies, which I don't think you can do. If you can, I haven't found it. 17 hours in. Uh, but other than that, I think the rock paper scissors kind of stances, for shields and spears and swords are all kind of cool, and kind of switching on the fly and mixing them in with your sticky bombs or your throwing knives or whatever is super cool. And the characters you interact with are their stories are really interesting. I'm in the middle of the Straw Hat uh, clan kind of missions, so
Oh my god, such a great storyline too.
yeah, so that's where I'm at
Hmm.
in that. So and then I just helped Yuna find her brother and open up the forge. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's where I'm at. It's cool. I'm
It's
enjoying it.
it's a really great game. It's got some of my favorite sequences of any game ever. It's one of the ones that, like, when I think about it, I remember back to the very first time they showed this off at E3, like 3 4 years before it came out,
Mhm,
and that the very first gameplay they showed there was an actual mission in game, but it's like a late game mission.
mhm.
That was maybe the funniest part of it. Like when I got to it, I was like, "Oh shit, okay." Well, that's a thing that happened.
Yeah,
So no, it's a really really good game. I can't wait for Ghost of Yotei.
yeah. I'm excited for that, but I'm also like excited for the next Assassin's Creed game when it comes out. I know they're having a bunch of
Yeah,
the issues surrounding it notwithstanding, right? Like to play as have this kind of style of game again is going to be cool in half a year
and
or
like
so.
that's the setting that people have asked for Assassin's Creed for like as far back as I can remember.
I mean, they teased it in Assassin's Creed 1 at the end.
Yeah,
And then, you know,
it's one of those, like, I think you always had to be delicate with how you did that story
mhm,
and like how to make it make sense, right? Like I do think that, like, logically, okay, the line that we follow from Assassin's Creed 1 to, like, I don't know, Black Flag, really through like everything up to, I would say, Origins makes a lot of sense. That it largely focuses on Europe and on, the New World and stuff like that. That made a
mhm.
lot of sense to me, but that was always the thing. It was like, well, if you do it, it needs to make sense. And I understood that they didn't want to do a Chronicles game set in Japan,
Yeah.
or at least like have that be like their main exposure to Japan, right? So,
Yeah. I
um,
kind of I kind of wish the Assassin's Creed Chronicles Russia one was like a real game, because like the
yeah,
Anastasia storyline is like so they could have done something really cool and interesting with that, and they kind of blew it on a Chronicles game, but
they did some cool things, but I'm very much in a wait and see mode with Assassin's Creed, like especially with Ubisoft as a whole right now. Like we got to talk about Ubisoft tonight, right? But
oh yeah.
um, Shadows and, like, I know Mirage underperformed relative to what they were thinking it was going to do. Um, it just I don't know. I have nothing against what they're trying to do with Shadows, for the record. It's just I'm so burned out on the franchise. Like Valhalla really, it's funny, I got back into it with Odyssey, played through Odyssey and Origins and really liked them both. And then played Valhalla, and it left such a sour taste in my mouth. And they kept supporting it for like 2 3 years after. And I understand it was a huge, sales success. Why not keep doing that? But going into like the Odin shit and everything, just nah, I'm good.
Mhm.
I'm good. So I'm interested to see how they tie this back to everything, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
To the assassin storyline. I'm reinvested in that one a little bit, but yeah, Assassin's Creed, man, that one of the most polarizing AAA franchises out there, I think, in terms of its decision making.
Yeah, I I'm a big fan of the series, but I don't know. I There are definitely ones that I like more than others.
Mm-hmm.
But you know. Anyways, what are you playing, Josh?
I've been playing the Starfield expansion this week, Shattered Space, which, man, I'm pretty disappointed in it. I don't think it's dog shit. I think it's very average. It's very like I'd give it like a 6 or a 7 probably.
Hmm.
Um, I think Varun Kai is a cool planet to explore. It certainly has more to do on it than the typical planet. I think that the areas you go to for the missions are pretty interesting. In particular, there's like 3 areas that you go to that I think are really, really well laid out. That's the opening mission, the final mission, and the one in the middle. I think that those 3 missions are actually done really well. I think there's some interesting lore, some interesting enemies that you fight. It gets very sci-fi and very weird. They stopped trying to make it so grounded, which I think makes it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
But man, just the same issues that are there in Starfield are present here. There are still like there's no new companions. There's not a whole lot of like new stuff to do, I guess. Like very, very underwhelming for a $30 expansion. I had high hopes that this could be their Far Harbor or their Shivering Isles moment, and instead I'm left more feeling like this is like Knights of the Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which, while not horrible, isn't really great either. So I think I'm done with Starfield. Even another expansion, I'd be really hard pressed to get back into it at this point. The game crashed on me 3 or 4 times
Oof.
while playing it, and I had so many frame rate issues. I didn't have any of these issues when I played the vanilla version a
Yeah.
year ago. Like somehow the performance got worse for me.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's
So
not exactly what you want to experience when
no,
the
it's not
game's
what you
been
want
out
to
for what,
experience.
2 years?
I'm playing this on a Series X. I'm not even playing this on a Series S. It's hard installed to the hard drive. It's not a memory card, not on an external drive. So yeah, just horrible performance all around for me. Um, really, really disappointed. I really wanted to spend more time and this get sucked into it. And instead, I just kind of found myself thankful that I blew through it in like 2 afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
What I have been playing that I really loved, though, and the full game comes out here in just a couple of days, so y'all are going to have to listen to me talk about it for the next few months. Metaphor Refantasio
I knew that was coming.
is absolutely, it has to be the front runner for Game of the Year right now. I was really skeptical if they were going to be able to kind of, because this is the same team that made Persona 3, 4, and 5. A lot of the heads for those games broke off to make their own studio with MP Studio, their own team.
Mm-hmm.
And holy shit, they did it. They fucking did it, man.
That's crazy.
This game is awesome. They have made a high fantasy Persona that focuses less on the monster catching aspect
Mm-hmm.
of Persona and more on the storylines and more on, the bonding moments and the character building and stuff. Like even in a game like without romance, which, we know the Persona games, that's a huge aspect of them, but like it doesn't focus on that. The main character is fully voiced, which is
Whoa,
so nice.
that's new.
Yes, for a Persona game, it's for an Atlas game, it's a fairly new thing. Like I absolutely loved it. It basically took the best parts of Persona and the best parts of Shin Megami Tensei and kind of combined them together.
Mm-hmm.
Um I really like so many of the combat aspects. It's great. Like you can engage enemies in the overworld, but if you don't defeat them in enough slashes, you enter regular combat. But like you can jam the Y button to call your team in, and if you do that before, like as you deplete the bar, like they'll go into a slow mo animation. Like if you do it during that animation, you get the opportunity attack on them. Like your whole party gets to go before the enemies do. It's great, man. Like there's actual questing to do in this game too. it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the demo of it. I encourage anyone who's on the outskirts about this, who maybe has never like gotten into the Persona games, because man, this feels too anime for me. It is a very Japanese game, but it's so good. Like I really cannot emphasize enough like just how good this is. You get to play about the first 4 or 5 hours of the game in the demo version. And most reviews I was checking out this morning, it debuted to a 94 on Metacritic, by the way, which
Hmm.
is an insanely high score for Metacritic. Um, Basically, everyone's saying it took them at least 80 hours to clear the story. It's going to take over 100 if you want to do all the side quests and side missions, and I assume side dungeons and everything. Like, you get to play through most of the first real dungeon as part of this demo.
Hmm.
It's so, and like I haven't even scratched the surface of the game. Like,
Wow.
that's the coolest thing, is like I haven't even scratched the surface. Like, there's bounty contracts you can undertake eventually. There's so, like, there's side missions and side quests inside of the dungeons. It really is like it took the palace system of Persona 5 and kind of made it, I don't want to say it perfected it. It made it better though in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
but there's still so many tropes of Shin Megami Tensei and Persona in here, which makes sense. Atlas has said that they envision this being the third pillar for them as a continuing franchise, that it's SMT, Persona, and Metaphor now.
Hmm.
That's just such a cool idea. Like, some of the classic monsters from both series show up in this one. Jack Frost is teased pretty heavily in the promotional materials, and that's of course a classic Persona and SMT monster, one of the earliest you get in any game.
Hmm.
So I thought that was a little cool. Really enjoyed that. I still think this somehow subtly connects to those games.
Yeah,
Um,
I would
but
imagine, right? I mean, I would.
considering Persona is originally a spinoff of SMT,
Yeah.
I would imagine this ties into them as well, but also can work as its own standalone thing. So I'm having a lot of fun. I can't wait for the full game to come out this weekend. It's going to be a very busy week of gaming, because as we're speaking, Diablo is getting ready to unlock Vessel of Hatred. Metaphor comes out this weekend, and a brand new dungeon in Destiny comes out.
I
So
know.
there's a lot of content going on. And then the only other thing I've been playing is I played some Fortnite this weekend for the Doctor Doom event, and that was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Fighting a gigantic Doctor Doom on the island was wild. But yeah, good times, man. Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to gush more about Metaphor over the next several episodes. And that'll be joined by Dragon Age and Diablo gushing, I'm sure. I pretty much have my lineup for the rest of the year set.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I wasn't really planning on playing Ghost of Tsushima. I was actually
Mm-hmm.
planning on playing Zelda for a while, and I was playing both for a little bit, and I just put Zelda down because I like Zelda,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not like itching to play it, which is weird because I was so hot on
Yeah.
it at PAX because it was great, and now I'm just like, well, I would rather just sit here and be a samurai for another 40 hours.
I'm into it. Like, I want to play it at some point, but it's not something that I feel like I have to rush out and get right now. Um, as far as Nintendo games go, think I'm far more invested in Mario and Luigi right now. Just that's kind of scratched that itch for me. But I mean, in a fall full of RPGs, do I even like really care about either of those? And it's not to say anything about their quality. It's just the time distribution, right? Like, I'm getting two massive three really, if you count Diablo. I'm getting three absolutely massive games. Hopefully, get through those by the end of the year. Stalker comes out. Indiana Jones is coming out. I just wrapped Astrobot. Um, yeah, the last couple months of this year are absolutely packed. Anyone who said that this was a slow year for games, I don't think really understands what's coming out in the next like 6 weeks.
Yeah, there's so many. It's
So that's
ridiculous.
not to say anything about like Black Ops is coming out, Life is Strange is coming out, like there's some indies coming. It's really, really busy. Indiana Jones is like kind of our last major release for the year. So we got almost exactly 2 months of big releases to get to.
Yeah, I know. There's so man, I don't even know what to do with myself or these games.
I don't know, and I'm very happy about it.
It just like makes me cry a little bit because there's so many.
I
Oh,
agree, but I like it.
yeah. No, I'm glad there's options to play, but it just, I gotta pick and choose what to play now. I'm glad Assassin's Creed got delayed because there's so many other things that I want to play
Assassin's
with.
Creed 100% would have hit the chopping block for me too. And it's
Yeah.
funny because they moved it to February, which is just as packed.
It's worse, I think, in terms of
It,
like massive releases.
it
Like,
comes out basically the same time as Avowed, as Monster Hunter. It's rough. Civ
yeah,
7 comes out that month. I have a friend who is just absolutely like does not know what he's going to do because February is Civ 7, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which had huge lines at PAX, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Avowed, Lost Records, which is the new Don't Nod game, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and Monster Hunter Wilds.
hmm
And God knows what else is going to come out. The Suikoden remasters are 3 weeks after as well.
yeah,
Like even January has some things coming. So it's man, I'm excited, but next year is going to be off to the races in January again. In the first 2 weeks of the year, we get Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and Freedom Wars Remastered, both coming out.
yeah.
So
Man, Freedom Wars remastered. What a pull that was.
was not on my bingo card, but I'm okay with it.
I mean, I liked Freedom Wars when I
Yeah.
had a Vita, so I played that a lot.
Oh, it was
Um,
great. So there's a lot coming, but should we want to get into this big topic tonight?
yeah, let's get into this, Josh. So, as we alluded at the beginning of the show, a lot of Halo news. Halo's back, Josh. It's
Halo, man.
back.
Oh boy.
So there's multiple parts to the story, right? So
Yeah.
the kind of first major thing is that they 343 Industries is no more, and they have rebranded as Halo Studios. They also announced that they have multiple Halo projects in the works via Unreal Engine 5, and they have been experimenting through what was it called? Project Forge, I think is what it was called.
It wasn't Forge, but it was something along those lines.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the big takeaway from HCS this weekend. Halo Studios, Josh.
I think it's so fucking corny. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think it's so
I
ridiculous.
so yes, but also the logo is not great. If you're gonna
It's
call yourself Halo Studios, use the Halo logo.
it's not great. I really hope this is a first pass at it because it's not great. But I have this pulled up from Xbox Wire. Unreal 5, man. We'd heard the rumors. There had been a lot of talk through the grapevine that especially Certain Affinity was working in Unreal 5. I think Jez was talking about this a few months ago when the rumors about Halo CE remake started going around pre-summer showcase. I'm not entirely shocked by this. I do like that they said they focused on 3 different biomes to get their artists acclimated. And I think that's a smart idea because 2 of them are classic biomes. That classic Pacific Northwest one they called, which is like when you think of maps like Valhalla, for example, or like Beaver Creek or something like that. There was the snow biome that they worked in, which I imagine helped them work with particle effects and things of that nature, like weather, getting acclimated to that. And then they showed pretty extensively a flood biome, which I
Yeah.
thought was really, really, really cool. So I'm very interested because they're leaving behind Slipspace, which Slipspace was the next evolution of the engine Halo has been built on ever since Halo 1. They said it on the stream that, the first chapter in the Halo saga, that's Bungie. And then you had the stories told by 343, and now you have the stories being told by Halo Studios. And one of the biggest things I saw coming out of this, and that they were saying, and that the immediate reaction from places like The Verge and Digital Foundry was, this frees them up to focus just on the games and not have to worry about being a tech company on top of that. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised they're going to go with okay, surprised is probably the wrong word. It makes sense that they're going to Unreal. The Coalition are working in Unreal. Obsidian and InXile and Ninja Theory all working in Unreal. This makes sense. But man, you have id Tech sitting right there.
I know.
You have it right there. And it makes me so upset that you have a cutting edge engine and you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
Like that frustrates me to no end, but whatever. The fact that they announced this and a lot of the actual like teases that we saw in this really, really feel like, I mean, that the armor is blatantly the Halo 1 Chief armor.
Oh yeah, no, it's
that you see, like, 1000%. Clearly showed it. Project Foundry is the name, by the way, of what they've been doing for the last year at the studio, getting everybody trained on Unreal 5. This is supposed to help with talent retention and bringing people in. You now no longer have to learn a proprietary engine. Presumably that makes it easier to bring in contractors as well. That was one of the big stories of Halo Infinite's failure of production, at least, was that so many contractors are coming in and they're only on 18-month contracts maximum. That's not enough time to get that. Just as you're starting to master this engine, you're being let go. Yeah. So this is a big deal. I do think that, okay, you have two main in-house engines at this point. And that's Forza Tech and that's id. Like, those are your main ones, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff over in like Activision, Blizzard that I don't know about, but like off the top of my head, those are the two big ones. Creation fucking sucks. We're not even gonna talk about Creation. But the other two are good engines, are very widely respected engines also.
Yeah.
I do think this is a really big deal, and The Verge kind of talked about this earlier. This almost sets the stage for Halo to become a multi-platform franchise now.
Yeah.
Because it's on Unreal, you don't have to worry about trying to optimize Slipspace or Tiger or whatever the fuck you're calling it these days to run on PlayStation. You don't have to worry about that anymore, or make it run on Switch 2. With how heavily they tease Combat Evolved in this, they say they have multiple projects in the works. I wanted to spitball on what we think these are really quickly. A CE remake has to be top of the list.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
We talked about this immediately prior to TGS. We talked about this,
especially because like if you're learning how to use an engine, like what better way to like teach yourself how to use an engine with a game that already is mapped out for you, and you know what I mean. Like you don't have to worry really about the story unless you want to expand little bits and pieces of it. Like you don't have to worry about designing levels within the engine that you're already using, right? Because it's kind of right there already. It's a layup. It's a layup at this point, right?
It's a layup. I do think that if you do that also allows you, because 25th anniversary of Halo is coming in 2026. We will not see a Halo title before that.
No,
just straight up. They announced they have another year of HCS coming next year. So that takes us up to fall 2025. It remains to be seen if they'll announce another year after that. I would imagine that they do one more year, assuming that viewership stays up and people are invested and this and that. But it was pretty clear. Like the message of HCS's announcement was, we are moving on from Halo Infinite. That Halo Infinite is kind of the end of what we've always thought of as Halo, and they want to reinvent the wheel. So what better way to do it than to do a Resident Evil style remake of Halo 1, right? The other one is clearly whatever the next major installment of Halo is, which I do think, like, when you see things like the Flood biome, that's what makes me think, oh, they're getting back to Halo. Yeah. I feel that is probably... They say it's not a tease for a new game, but it's not a traditional tech demo either. So that does tell me that, like, they may not use these exact environments because obviously they don't look like actual maps, with the exception of the Valhalla one. Which that's not even Valhalla. I'm just using that as a generic name. Like, that is one of the very first things you see on the Halo ring in Halo 1 is a tower like that in a forest. They did this tease with Infinite also, though, and that's the thing that has me reserved when we got that initial teaser trailer for Infinite before we knew it was called Infinite. Where everyone was like, "Oh my god, we're back on a Halo ring. Like, there's Spartans here and everything, and like there's Marines, and like it was really cool." And that's still one of the coolest like little reveals that we've gotten, I think. And then the next year, you get what ends up being the opening calibration sequence of Infinite with the pilot. I beyond those two, I don't really know what you're going to get, but this gives me hope that because and this doesn't just mean that Halo Studios has to make everything themselves either. Things can be outsourced. To me, this says they're going to let other studios do some of the work for them. Like Certain Affinity has taken over multiplayer entirely. Basically, Halo Studios has been told you are going to make the campaign. You're going to make the campaign and you're going to help design maps and things like that. You're going to do that. You're going to shepherd the franchise. I would like to see another team within Microsoft get a crack at these. I would love to see, now that you have Blizzard, I'd love to see Halo Wars 3. I'd love to see Halo Wars 3. I'd like to see an ODST style game, another ODST. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to call it that. Like, give me a game that follows Fireteam Osiris. I know that's controversial, but like, let me see another game with Locke and Locke and Buck. Like, let me see a game like that. I'd really love it. Give me a Gears Judgment style spinoff. Or even something like Hivebusters. Like, give me an experience like that. We never got campaign DLC for Infinite, and it feels like such a fucking waste. But I feel like I think a Halo tactical shooter could be a really alluring option, because especially if you want to be able to put games on every device, that to me screams, hey, we'd be okay with putting something like Halo Tactics or Gears Tactics onto mobile devices, onto PlayStation, onto the Switch. They're not as graphically demanding, and games like XCOM have had a lot of success on those platforms.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we go that route. That actually would be a really cool idea. Like, have that follow Buck, you could do some interesting things, like, maybe adapt some of the storylines of the books. Like, there are things you can do here. So I'm interested to see what it is, but I would say whatever the projects are, I think if CE is really getting a remake, it launches with the next console and it's campaign only. Just as like, oh, this was like kind of our tech demo of what we can do with Unreal 5. And then the real next Halo, like that's your appetizer. The real next Halo follows in the spring when you can launch HCS with it. You get out of the way of having a Call of Duty there at launch. You let it have its moment. If E-Day doesn't come out next year, I think E-Day would be a launch title because it'll be 20th anniversary of Gears as well. Maybe you launch that then. But it lets all three of your big shooters have their time in the sun.
Yeah.
So, and like, I can't imagine the wet dream that the Xbox executives and Microsoft execs are thinking of. Damn, we could really have an Infinity Ward Call of Duty, E-Day, a Halo remake, and Halo 7 all in an 18 to 24 month span. Like, that is certifiably crazy, and that looks like the path that we're on. Not to mention, you got Doom the Dark Age is coming out now, and it might still be getting expansions in 2026. So there's a lot going on. Like, it's becoming really clear, like, hey, if you want to do a shooter, you got to be on Xbox. Like, that is just, they are killing the game.
Yeah.
So I was really optimistic when they were talking about, like, this is a new direction for the franchise. This is a new beginning for us, for the studio, for that. Like, the 343 the 343 brand, not name, was so fucking toxic by that point, sadly.
Yeah.
That you had to get rid of that, because even non-Halo fans were like, oh God, 343. Like, it has just been one fumble after another. You had 12 to God, it's been like 15 years since they announced it was going to be called 343, I think, and they stumbled right out of the gate with that horrible remaster of Halo 1. It's like basically unplayable. And then you had the Master Chief Collection debacle. You had Halo 4, which I think still has maybe the third best campaign in the series behind Halo 2 and 3. It certainly has the best Chief and Cortana storyline, but
Yeah.
the multiplayer was aimed at casuals. It wasn't aimed towards a competitive audience, so people fell off
Yeah.
there.
Well, they had
Halo,
like the loadout stuff because I think they were trying to compete with Call of Duty right at the
they
time,
were,
and
they were
and
that was in the middle of the Modern Warfare 2 and 3, and the Battlefield 3 craze, like all that was happening, and you're trying to compete with them. And then, I think Black Ops 2 came out the exact same year, which posed another problem. Like, so you have all these issues, and yet, I mean, that game still sold like 16 million copies. It's still the second, I think, best-selling 360 game ever behind Halo 3. So, like, it still did bonkers numbers. It just didn't retain the multiplayer. I liked the multiplayer because it was more casual based at that point. Halo 5 swings too far in the other direction. It was built. I remember when they did the reveal for the multiplayer and it was billed as being an esport. Like fucking Golden Boy was playing it on stage at E3.
mhm.
Like, come on, man. Like, I love Alex, but Jesus Christ. Like, that's not gonna, like, I didn't know a whole lot about esports at the time. I knew enough about the scene. Like, that's not gonna appeal to me,
Yeah.
and that was 4v4 was very rough in 5 for me, and the campaign's atrocious. Warzone was what kept me coming back.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with Warzone, and of course then we all know the saga of Infinite. Like, it's just been one thing after another. They had 2 pretty damn good campaigns, I would say, and a bunch of stumbling blocks when it comes to inconsistent multiplayer and map development and everything else. So
Yeah.
I really do hope this is the beginning of a new chapter, but this is a studio that also laid off 90 people in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and for them to come out and be promoting, "We're hiring" on the heels of this was really frustrating to see.
Yeah. I agree with that to an extent, but also like look at the talent that or the people that the turnover, right, is like you want people to come in and breathe new life into Halo. And like I'm not saying
Yeah.
everybody there was like had been there forever and like maybe felt like the old guard, but like maybe some fresh talent in there will give some new life to Halo and make it feel, maybe if not like old school Halo, like this is the Halo that it feels like the Halo that we remember while also being modern and
Mhm.
fun and interesting.
Well, they said that the people that are at the studio, they want people that want to create Halo working at
Mhm.
that studio.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's been kind of like difficult in the past, right?
Yeah.
Um, Something I really liked when they were talking about in the Xbox Wire article, they talk about like how they're intentionally being vague about the franchise right now, like what's coming beyond Foundry. The team isn't talking exactly what those new games will be right now. We're at the beginning of the new chapter, not the final stages. And it's fair to say a new game is not imminent. Infinite will still be supported through Slipspace. You can expect operations, updates to Forge, and year 4 of HCS on the side of esports. But the next steps are being taken. The quietness is by design. Heinz makes it clear that the priority right now is on doing the work, not talking about it. One of the things I really wanted to get away from was the continued teasing of possibilities and must-haves. We should do more and say less. For me, I really think it is important that we continue the posture which we have right now when it comes to our franchise, the level of humility and the level of servitude towards the fans. We should talk about things when we have things to talk about at scale. Today is the first step. We're showing Foundry because it feels right to do so. We want to explain our plans to the fans and attract new, passionate devs to our team. The next step will be talking about the games themselves. And games, plural, are in development right now. We had a disproportionate focus on trying to create the conditions to be successful in servicing Infinite. But switching to Unreal allows us to put all the focus on making multiple new experiences of the highest quality possible. So I am excited, and I just really, really, really hope that this sticks the landing when they do come out with a project, because I won't say that Halo is like, oh, it's gonna die if you don't have a good one. Like, it is so hard to break through like those 8 or 9 games that everyone puts time and money into. And like
Right.
Infinite was one of the few, I think, this generation that actually has broken through that. It's just it fell off because they didn't have content ready to go, was the problem. It launched so bare bones that you couldn't retain players. Now people just don't want to go back.
Mhm.
They have too many other things. So the narrative is that, oh, Infinite's just dog shit. Oh, it's dog shit. Like, yeah, do a lot of things need to be better? Absolutely. The online infrastructure is awful on that game. It's awful.
Yeah.
I get DC'd so much playing that game.
Yeah.
But man, not having to worry about building an engine and doing maintenance on it, that's a huge deal. It's a huge fucking deal. So I'm personally optimistic about the future of Halo, even if I don't think it's like, the greatest thing ever yet. Like, I'm gonna hold any reservations till we see actual gameplay. But for right now, I am encouraged, I would say.
Yeah, I'm really, this is the most optimistic I've been on Halo in a while.
Yeah.
I would say since maybe the Halo 5 marketing began, because that whole Hunt the Truth thing was pretty, the marketing outweighed the game by a mile, right? I mean, that marketing campaign was really good.
For Infinite? Yeah.
No, for 5.
Oh, for 5. Oh my God. Dude, fucking Hunt the Truth is one of the best.
And then they put out that podcast of like the audio diaries beforehand, and like, the short before, like they put the new bookends on Halo 2 anniversary. Like,
I will always remember the cuts or the trailer that we got at E3 2013. Is that what it was? 2014.
The Poncho one, or the
no,
or the one
we got the Poncho one in 2013. 2014, we got the one with Locke and the Arbiter. Where they're seeing like his greatest moments.
Yeah.
And Locke basically says he has to hunt him down. That's back when Mike Coulter was still the voice.
Yeah.
And like, I have to hunt him and this and that. And the Arbiter is giving the narration of, I have called him, he's gone by many names, Savior, Demon, Spartan, Friend.
Yeah.
And, it's one of the coolest things, because we're like, oh my God, this is a new tease for Halo 5. And it was, but that's also how they announced the Master Chief Collection.
Right.
And it was so cool. And it's like, I feel like the marketing for Halo has always been like, before it comes out, has always been good. It's the post-release content just is not. They really need new marketing people at Xbox. I'm so tired of saying this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But we really, really do. It's embarrassing, man.
I know. The fact that they do a better job of marketing things that you can't buy as opposed to the things that you can buy is atrocious.
It's not great.
It's atrocious. It's bad. Their marketing is bad.
It's bad.
It's very, very bad.
It's not great.
So, I don't know. It actually got me like really excited to actually go in and like play some Halo again.
Yeah.
I re-downloaded the Master Chief Collection to my Series X last night, and might play a little bit this week or this weekend. Maybe even Infinite. Who knows? Who knows, Josh? There might be some Halo in my future.
I love Halo. So I'm always here for Halo, but I'm very, very, very excited for what the future can hold between this and the third person mode. I think this is really cool. Yeah. And as far as we've heard, the Battle Royale is dead.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a thing. It kept getting pushed back, and then late last year, apparently quietly got the axe, and they basically just told Certain Affinity, hey, instead of doing a Battle Royale and maintaining that for us, why don't you just take over all of multiplayer? Which, again, I think is a really, really good idea. Like, Certain Affinity is as close to being a owned studio as humanly possible without actually being owned. With this, and they were initially working on Perfect Dark before Crystal Dynamics got the contract to keep doing it. So, and hey, who better to work on Halo than Max Hoberman? Getting us back to the glory days of Halo 2. So, if anyone can do it, it's his team.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited.
I'm very optimistic about the future of Halo, to be honest. I know I just said that, but this is literally the most optimistic I've been about Halo in a long time. I think the team is lean and mean. I think they've got the right people in the right positions. Certain Affinity on multiplayer. It's cooking, man. It's cooking. You just got to deliver now. They just got to deliver it, Josh.
God, that's always been the problem, is we just have to cook.
You can't drop the pizza on the floor, Josh.
Yeah. Right now, I'm just always afraid that I'm going to be walking in. I'm always going to be walking into the room like Donald Glover in Community and just find the room on fire. I'm always
Yep.
afraid that that's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean that's every Xbox release at this point now, though. I mean, or every marketing beat, because there's always like,
Yeah.
there's the good thing, and then they step on the rake, and then the prongs of the rake go into their face. So, oh man.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else to say about Halo?
No, I think that's more than enough Halo for tonight.
Yeah. We'll be watching their future with great interest, Josh.
Yeah, except
as
we
they
won't be
say.
Sith Lords about it.
No. Well, we might be, depending on the...
We might be. Jesus Christ.
Speaking of Sith Lords, Josh, Ubisoft.
Yeah, so I didn't see that this was on here. So I put this on our doc twice.
Oh, well, hey, we can cover it twice. There's enough there.
No, God. Ubisoft, man. Ubisoft is considering a buyout, Corey.
I know.
And the buyer, it's not Microsoft. Surprise. Tencent is looking to buy them.
Oh, yikes.
Which is leading to some concerns right off the bat. Not just because it would be Tencent buying them, but because they would also own a lot of the cloud gaming rights. Remember, they have all of the Activision Blizzard streaming rights, game streaming rights for like the next 10 years.
Right. You think you don't think that would revert back to Microsoft if Tencent bought them out?
I don't think so.
I didn't know.
It depends on what legal language is in there, but
right.
I have no reason to believe that would transfer back.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, that's like the least of the concerns with this.
Well,
right?
yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, like Tencent is like it's one of those companies that is quietly taking over everything. It's like this. It's like the Saudi family fund or whatever, community fund, right?
Tencent owns a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Primarily in like Asia and
yeah. Well, they just up the Saudi fund just up their Nintendo ownership to like 8% now.
I saw that. That's concerning.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that sarcastic. That's actually very concerning.
Yeah.
I don't like this for the same reasons that I had a problem with Microsoft buying Activision. I don't like it. I think that it takes away competition and this and that. And like, hey, maybe sometimes it's okay for like the company to just not be like ultra successful anymore and focus on less games. Like y'all
maybe
say that you're concerned about your financials, but then plans come out that you're planning on releasing 10 Assassin's Creed games in like the next 5 years. Maybe talk about murdering your own franchise.
Maybe you scale the company back and release, maybe 4 or 5 Assassin's Creed games in the next 20 years. Maybe. Or, I don't know, man. I don't understand why a company like this employs 20,000 people. That's 3 times the amount of Activision Blizzard, Josh.
It's ridiculous.
Why?
I do not understand this at all. It's just, and for them to pump out yearly sequels, like I don't like this. I'm not a fan of it. I just think Ubisoft kind of needs to scale back, and I understand that like you almost can't at this point, right?
Right.
But like, hey, maybe let Assassin's Creed take a couple years of a break, and then come back with a better game.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think we all thought, oh, hey, they put out Valhalla and then they supported it with DLC. And granted, DLC was asinine for multiple years, but like they at least supported it long term because it was still selling. They put it on subscription services, things like that. Like maybe do an Assassin's Creed game, once or twice a generation. Give us a Prince of Persia in the meantime. Give me a new Prince of Persia that's open world. Like, yeah. Also, maybe make your games feel different. They all feel the fucking same. Ghost Recon should not be the same as an Assassin's Creed game, except the only difference is I have an AK.
Right.
Like, I'm so fucking tired of the Ubisoft open map system at this point.
Yeah.
Like, Watch Dogs is a flop of a franchise. At this point, that's a flop of a franchise.
Well, it's because like you said, like you look at Far Cry, Ghost Recon, Watch Dogs, they're all literally the same. They all use the same systems and mechanics, and even Splinter Cell to an extent, right? I mean, even though the last one was like what 12 years ago at this point, like you look at
Splinter
this,
Cell exists as a Netflix animated show at this point, which is really
yeah.
depressing.
But I mean, like that mark and confirm system that they use has been in everything since Blacklist, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it's
yeah,
literally been in everything. And so, like, I mean, and then you have like Ghost Recon Breakpoint doesn't sell well because it's like essentially the Division in the jungle. Like nobody wants, like, you know what I mean? Like it's they're all the same. They're so hard to tell apart. And then you have things like Rainbow Six Siege, which yeah, it's still popular, but then you have X Defiant, which is like, what are you doing? You already have your Tom
God,
Clancy
dude.
first person shooter game as a service. What are you doing? Like stop eating your games. Like it's like when they released Prince of Persia: Sands of Time and Beyond Good and Evil on the same day. Remember, like 20 years ago. I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but like you're trying to cater to the same market with multiple games. Like you gotta stop, scale back, become smaller. Like there's no reason for them to employ 20,000 people and release Far Cry every year or Assassin's Creed every year or Watch Dogs. Like, there's no reason for it, you know? And I like Ubisoft. I like Ubisoft games. But there's no way in hell I'm buying every one of them or playing every single one of them or that's the joke, right? It's like they go on sale after like 2 or 3 weeks. You can buy it for like, instead of 70, you can buy it for 45 or whatever 2 or 3 weeks later because like oh,
Yeah.
we have another game coming out, so we got to get people to buy this one so we can go sell this one. And it's like, come on. Like there was a point where Ubisoft was like the crown jewel of AAA developers, and then they just extended themselves too far and employed too many people, and this is where they're at. 10-year low, Josh. 10-year low stock price.
Yeah. And think about where we were, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you were coming off Assassin's Creed 3 and going into, well, you weren't even coming off Assassin's Creed 3, really. You were going into Unity,
Yeah.
for the record. And Unity, we all know what a train wreck that was.
Yeah. Unity and Watch Dogs, because Watch Dogs was
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
next gen game we saw, right? I mean,
both of those were just disasters. So I don't know. Like Outlaws, every year I do a game of the year stream with a couple of friends when we get together and drink beer for the week after Christmas, and we have a More Time in the Oven award. The Hideo Kojima Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain award is what it's called.
Yeah.
And this year, I mean, like Outlaws is kind of my runaway pick. As much as I've enjoyed Outlaws,
Yeah.
Man, especially in the later parts of the game, that game is just falling apart for me, unfortunately. I've had multiple glitches and hard crashes where I've had to reset the whole console, and it is just frustrating.
Yeah. And that's why I'm waiting to play it, because
it's really bad when they have to give you a roadmap of the fixes.
Yeah.
They have to add those to the content roadmap.
Yeah.
And I, like, on top of that, I bought the gold edition of it, so I've got both DLCs pre-purchased. I don't even know if I'm going to get to them at this point because I'm so frustrated.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
So, like, and it's just like, man, I really had hoped that they would do more with the Star Wars license, but they showed that game off so early. I mean, we saw it last summer for the first time, and that was only a couple years after getting the license. Like, that game was not in production for very long for us to see that. And I feel bad because, like, so many of the characters are good in this game, and it's just not the game. Just, it feels like it's the Ubisoft formula in a Star Wars game is what it comes down to a lot of the times. Like, as much as I really have enjoyed, like, for everything that I gripe about, I've had really great experiences. It's the most Ubisoft shit ever, though. It's like a solid 7.5 in my book, which, don't get me wrong, like 7.5, those are totally fine. Like, that's what the majority of games are like 7 to 8 range.
Yeah.
But it's a recurring theme with Ubisoft. They won't dive into that deeper bag that they have. I mean,
look at some of the smaller games that people have been clamoring for. I mean, we got a new Prince of Persia this year, right? Granted,
which is one of the best games of the year.
Yeah. Or like where's a third Rayman game, right? Or like,
dude, I really can't believe that they made Rayman Legends, which was a wild success, and then said, "Nah, we're good."
Yeah, or like, Valiant Hearts or Child of Light or, some of these other smaller projects. You know what I
I'm
mean? Like,
so upset that we never saw more in the Child of Light universe.
even something like Immortals Phoenix Rising, yeah, the game was like a Breath of the Wild ripoff essentially, but like at least they tried something that wasn't Assassin's Creed or Ghost Recon, right? And I actually really liked that game a lot. I mean, and that's like the definition of a 7. Um,
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. They're frustrating me because I like Ubisoft's franchises.
Yeah.
I like Prince of Persia. I like Assassin's Creed. I like Rayman. Like, there's nothing more I want than for Ubisoft to like figure it out. But I mean, a lot for them to figure it out. A lot of people are going to either lose their jobs or they're going to be bought out or both. Probably both. You know, probably
Yeah.
both.
I actually wonder at what point do they stop? Because I mean, so many of their games are licensed on the Tom Clancy name. Like,
Well, they own Tom Clancy.
do they really? Okay.
Yeah,
I was unaware that they actually
they
owned
own
it.
all entertainment
Got you.
branding for Tom Clancy. Any like even Amazon when they use Tom Clancy, they have to go through Ubisoft. So like for that, what was it, that Jack Ryan or whatever?
Yeah.
That's a Tom Clancy thing, right? So yeah, I mean they when he was dying or whatever, like the estate sold the Tom Clancy entertainment stuff to Ubisoft, so they own it.
Yeah. I wonder at what point they try to get those rights back because, like, I imagine that just those games like don't seem to be super profitable anymore. Like, Ghost Recon hasn't been profitable in a hot minute, as far as I'm aware. They aren't doing anything with Splinter Cell. They tried at one point. We were getting like so many different games. Like Siege has been the only Rainbow Six game for a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the only other one you have is the Division. And when's the last time they did something with that franchise that they did not cancel?
Well, the third one is in development now,
Is
right?
it really?
Yeah.
I
They canceled the free to play one so they could
I
make
don't
a
remember this,
to
but
make a
that's
new one.
fine. No, that's totally fine. Like that just shows like how tuned out I am when it comes to that franchise now. Like how frustrated I am with the Division.
Yeah, but look how like knowledgeable you are about you're in the weeds all the time about the news and you like just
Yeah,
that passed you by. I mean, that says everything, right? I mean,
yeah. That just kind of flew by me. It's one of those things. And like Massive is like they're one of the Massive and Ubisoft Montreal are like they're two studios that consistently make good product for the most part.
yeah.
And Massive has just in the last couple of years, they've done the Division stuff. They were working on spin-offs. You say they're working on Division 3 now. They did the Avatar game. They did Outlaws. Like they are so overloaded with shit at Massive.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but think that Outlaws would have been better if they just didn't have to make that fucking Avatar game.
Mm-hmm.
Which by all accounts, it's basically Avatar Far Cry from what I've heard, but that's why it didn't sell.
Yeah.
Like I am more interested in the Avatar universe than the average person, and I feel like outside of the technical achievement, I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, I
But
don't.
like
Yeah.
outside the technical achievement and outside of the Disney theme park stuff, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I'm still more invested than the average person. Even I couldn't bring myself to play it. So
Yeah.
I was just like, what the fuck ever? Just what the fuck ever? What am I supposed to do? God, I'm so frustrated. I'm so annoyed every time I think about it.
Yeah. I don't really know what to say anymore because I know I would be talking in circles and the rant would just continue, but I really hope Ubisoft figures it out because I really like. I mean, look at the collaborations they did with Nintendo with the Mario Rabbids games.
Those are great, but they basically said they did not give the second one any sort of promotion at all. They sent them and Nintendo sent that game
Well,
out to die.
Nintendo told them to wait till the next console to be a launch title.
Which is so dumb because that game was clearly done. It's not their fault. I can't believe I'm going to have to defend Ubisoft here. Like that is asinine to ask them to delay a game, a third party studio to delay a game multiple years because you won't release the follow up to your console.
Yeah. I mean, but also like Nintendo operates differently than everybody else, and they sit on
Right.
games for years, right? And
Right,
so
but
like maybe they're
that's why I'm
just
saying, like, it's so unreasonable to ask
yeah,
Ubisoft, who's bleeding cash, to do that. Like, a Mario game should be an influx of cash, but you look at what I can blame them for is that asinine release date of when they put it out.
mm-hmm.
They put it out right in the middle of the fall scrum. Like, dude, that's something you put out. Like, the first one came out the beginning of August. It was perfectly timed. It had time to itself. I would have held it to like
Yeah,
March or April, and then put it out. Like, Nintendo probably didn't have anything at that point.
right.
Like, put that out and just let it cook slowly over the summer. But as a result, they've lost the team that made that game too. They all walked.
Yeah. And like they put it
So
out, they put that game out in between Persona 5's Switch release and Bayonetta 3, which were our two major releases too, you know.
yeah, I was trying to think of when they released it, and it's like, yeah, if they would have just waited until Q1, the only other major Switch game you would have had to deal with was like fucking Fire Emblem, I think.
Yeah, and Fire Emblem Engage was awful.
It was not great.
So, as somebody who loves Three Houses, like that game was
Yeah, Three Houses, you went from one of the best in
yikes.
the franchise to just, I wouldn't even say bad, it's just underwhelming. Like,
Yeah.
but that's like beside the point. It's just like Ubisoft
Yeah.
Ubisoft has a lot of the same problems that Microsoft does at the core
yeah.
of it.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of their management, their release schedules, their promotions, things like that. Like, they have a lot of the same problems.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating to watch. I really, really, really hope that they get it together, though. I think Ubisoft is going to come out of this. I think this is just some gut reactions, is all this is.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope Ubisoft figures it out. I hope they don't have to go through the 10-cent buyout, but it kind of looks that way. So I guess we'll keep an eye on that too. All right, Josh. The news we kind of wanted to hear, but incomplete. Square Enix wants Final Fantasy 16 on Xbox, Josh. Can you believe it?
I read this article, and this is just so dumb. It's such a nothing burger. Like, yeah, we want to release it, but we can't share details. They don't fucking talk about it. God. But for them to come out and clearly say, yes, we want it on Xbox is a thing. My suspicion is they're waiting to show this at a big event.
Mm-hmm.
I think there maybe the exclusivity clause on PlayStation got extended for consoles, got extended purely because of the DLCs. If anything, I would guess that maybe it gets ported to Switch 2 and you get it on Xbox the same day.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how much of a downgrade that would be, but considering this thing runs on the Steam Deck pretty well, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, especially with what I've been hearing about what's in the Switch 2. Like,
yeah,
it's more powerful than a Steam Deck at this point. And with that NVIDIA AI stuff that they're using, like, seems really like the ideal thing would be to put it out on Xbox and Switch 2 at the same time to get that marketing beat. So, but then you got to consider, like, Nintendo likes to have these things to themselves, right? So, like,
yeah, I see it being a similar situation to the Atlas games going multi-platform.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think so much has been made of the partnership between Square and Microsoft that Microsoft probably backed up a truckload of cash and is going to be like, hey, we're putting it on Game Pass right away.
Yeah.
You know? So,
which would be great for us.
I mean, I personally have played through the whole game and loved it. It was arguably my game of the year last year. So,
yeah. I mean, I purchased it. I just haven't played it yet because
this is a big nothing burger for me. Like, until it happens, I'm so tired of every week. Like, there's some new rumor from Jez, and it's like, until it happens, like, let's just stop talking about it, or until you've got like some concrete info. Like, we're not gonna sit here and keep throwing shit at the wall until it sticks.
Yeah.
So, that's my personal take.
Yeah. You know what? We are getting a sequel though, to Josh.
After 10 years.
Yeah. Alien Isolation is getting a sequel, a direct sequel. They announced that for the game's 10 year anniversary. Jeez, are you kidding me? To our fans around the world, it's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since we embarked on our journey to release Alien Isolation. When we started developing Alien Isolation, we had one guiding principle: to create a truly authentic experience that went back to the roots of the Alien franchise. a new story capturing the atmosphere and terror of the original 1979 movie masterpiece. And then they went on to kind of say, today I'm delighted to confirm on behalf of the team that a sequel to Alien Isolation is in early development. We look forward to sharing more details with you when we're ready. Once again, thank you. And that is Al Hope, the creative director of Alien Isolation, on Twitter. So yeah, that was interesting to see today.
Yeah.
Random.
So I don't think it's too random. I think it's that there's been more interest in the franchise lately.
Because Romulus was good, right?
Romulus was good, and I mean, like something like this, it would have had to have been in the works beforehand. But they had a lot of confidence in Romulus. Like Romulus was about to start filming, and right as it started filming, they said, "Hey, we're going to move this from being a Hulu release to being a theatrical release," and it was a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
They also have a series coming next year from the creator of Fargo and Legion. Noah Hawley is doing a alien series called Alien Earth,
mm-hmm.
which takes place earlier than Prometheus in the timeline. So I'm by like a year or two, very excited for that. I think that this is just a slam dunk move. Like that's another game that, like, it came out, it was really rocky at launch, and they worked on fixing it, patching it. They did a ton of DLCs for it. So I'm interested to see what this ends up looking like.
Yeah.
I personally probably won't play it just because I don't have the mental willpower to play an Alien game. I can watch a movie and be tense for like 2 hours, but playing a game where I'm that tense for that long, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not that interested in playing it, but I know
I
a
think
lot of
the
people.
AI of that game is some of the best we've ever seen in a game, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are very interested in that game and the community in particular.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
You know, I'm glad that game found success because it had like middling reviews when it came out, right? And like people just I don't know. That game has had such a long tail. It's crazy. All right, Josh. Stalker 2. Have you
documentary.
Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
I have. I have not watched the documentary yet, but it came out on October 3rd, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I have not watched this yet. I've heard that it's a very emotional documentary. It's difficult to watch at times.
Yeah. It's by the same people who did that Xbox Power On documentary.
Yes, which was excellent.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I will watch this eventually. I might get around to it. Well, probably not this weekend, but by the time we do another episode, I will have watched this. So,
yeah.
Which I guess I kind of need to watch this weekend then. I'm very interested to see this. I'm interested to see this game come out too. It continually has great previews, long lines to play it at every event it's at. It's been hotly anticipated for a long time. I mean, you think all the way back to Summer Showcase 2021, which is when we first really saw gameplay of this game. And that was one of the standout games of Microsoft's show. Like, they didn't have a lot of their own games to really show. Like, they had some of their own games, right? But it was stuff we'd seen before. Psychonauts 2, Age of Empires 4, Flight Sim, Halo Infinite, things like that. But that was one of the big games that was supposed to come out spring 2022. And, we all know how that's gone for the last several years. It got delayed, and then it got delayed again, and it's like, okay, is it going to come out? We went through that whole weird thing with the NFTs right before the war broke out, and it backfired so spectacularly that within like 2 hours of announcing it, they had to backtrack it or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So I feel for GSC. I'm really looking forward to playing this game. I'm picking up a physical copy no matter what, just to support them. I'm very, very excited to see this game get into the hands of people. And by all accounts, they have really, really appreciated Microsoft's support in making this game and being understanding with the timeline and everything else. This is a big game for Game Pass. It's a really big partnership for Microsoft. It was one of the very few third-party games that was announced at the 2020 Series X show.
Yeah.
And in fact, when it got announced, I was like, "Oh, this thing is never coming out." Those were my exact words after that. Like, yeah, I'll believe it when I actually see it.
Hmm.
It feels weird that we are about a month away from it actually coming out.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to play this game. I'm excited to watch the documentary. Excited is probably the wrong word about the documentary, but I'm very intrigued to watch it. Not a lot of people do great video game documentaries these days. It's basically like no clip, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So, very, very, very interested in this.
Yeah. Very interested.
I'm sure it's going to get a big push on the dashboard too as we get closer.
I'm sure.
A little surprised it isn't already.
Yeah. I really thought that the Xbox One was done. It was amazing. And
It was
so
excellent.
I will
Yeah,
watch
it
this
was
based
excellent.
off that. So,
100%. 100%.
yeah. Well, Josh, guess what? Shocking. Tango Gameworks was working on Hi-Fi Rush 2 before they were shut down.
Yeah, so this was kind of like a throwaway comment during an interview with the CEO of Krafton. But they said essentially that Hi-Fi Rush 2 had been in production for about 6 months at the time when they got shut down. Which I think has to be maddening for people to hear that, for the public to hear that. That has to be maddening. Like,
Yeah.
who knows how long it would have taken to make, right? Like, but I imagine a lot of the assets were already in place from the first game.
Yeah.
They said they want to expand the scope on it, make it, more free flowing, a little bit more open world.
Yeah.
And they were working on Evil Within anniversary content. They were gonna
Right.
do some stuff for the 10th anniversary of that franchise. So that's a little frustrating. I saw people talking about it and they're like, well, if Microsoft never does anything with Evil Within again, like, okay, like apparently 2 tied up the story pretty neatly.
Yeah.
I personally have not played Ghostwire Tokyo yet, so I don't know if that one wrapped up decently. And then Hi-Fi Rush, like, I never felt like Hi-Fi Rush needed a sequel, but there was always the potential for there to be one.
Yeah.
So this again feels like another fumble moment for Microsoft, like, especially with the bullshit reasoning we were given. Like, really? Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't find a way to keep an award-winning studio open that was still receiving awards after the studio closure, mind you.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna tell me you couldn't find a way to keep them open? Like, I'm not advocating for anyone to lose their jobs, but like, we couldn't lose like a handful of people from like King instead.
Right. And like
Like,
I don't know if you saw, man, I wish I could find it, but I don't know if you saw one of the stories that came out today.
oh god,
But
no.
like Tango was praising Phil Spencer and basically blaming Microsoft and not the Xbox division for closing them.
Which is what you and I have thought for
Yeah.
a while now. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that tracks.
Yeah. So, I gotta find it, but yeah, it's sad because Hi-Fi Rush was awesome.
It was very, very good. It was one of the most creative new games that we have seen this generation.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the best new IPs.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's I don't know. I think this is kind of already what we talked about, but yeah, there's really nothing here to say. We spoke with Phil Spencer directly, and we have their direct support. He has been incredibly accommodating in the needs of the Tango team. Also, the opportunity to take over the IP from Microsoft was unusual. So yeah, it's kind of I don't know. There's more in there, but it's just an excerpt from an article from another source that's not sourced. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on around it. So I'm curious to see what comes of Hi-Fi Rush 2. Like, is that, because here's the thing, like, that was kind of Tango's breakout game. Like, yes, I know Evil Within has a very dedicated fan base, but this really felt like the one that, like, they got the critical acclaim finally. Maybe not the commercial success of the first Evil Within, because I mean, you just slapped Shinji Mikami's name on that, right?
Right.
But with this one, it really felt like they they were doing something unique that nobody else was doing. It was filling that jet grind radio sized hole in our hearts.
Yeah. Oh man. Just it makes me so sad every time we talk about Tango, dude.
Yeah, Tango and Arcane Austin just deserved so much better than this. So much better.
Yeah. I hope Hi-Fi Rush is great. I hope it's the second one's great.
I genuinely hope the second one is great.
I hope
I need it to be good.
I hope it's 90 plus on Metacritic and is just a universal praised success.
I have some things here from Jason Schreier. Jason Schreier's been making it's kind of our last news story, and these are like kind of tidbits because he's done a lot of interviews regarding Activision Blizzard as a part of his interview cycle for his brand new book, which his third book. Highly recommend if you've not read his first two books on the games industry to go read them. Blood, Sweat, Pixels, especially, is an absolutely incredible read. But this is called Play Nice, and it's the story of Blizzard. There is some damning stuff in there about Bobby Kotick.
Oh yeah,
and just about like Blizzard in general. Some of the things that came out of this, that at one point they had a deal with Netflix to do animated series based on StarCraft, Overwatch, and Diablo, I believe. Warcraft may have been a part of that also. It was kind of unclear from the transcript I was reading. But that was supposedly canceled because Netflix hired away one of the VPs of Blizzard. And so Bobby was mad about it and said, "We're killing the deal."
Mm-hmm.
Another one is that we have a list of games that were canceled throughout the years, and Jason talked about this on the MinMax podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And he has more on several of these in the book apparently, but we have at least a dozen games here, including a 4X Starfield game, Odyssey, which is a survival game, Orion, which was a mobile RPG, Hades, which was the original version of Diablo 4 that featured a third-person camera, Arkham style combat, and permadeath. So basically Dark Souls Diablo, which would be a huge hit today, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Diablo for the Game Boy, Starblow, which was a sci-fi Diablo game, Bloodlines, a space vampire game, a licensed Star Wars game, and when that fell apart, that eventually led to StarCraft's creation. Avalon, which is a Minecraft-style Warcraft game in development as recently as 2015. A Call of Duty RTS, a Helldivers-style Warcraft game. Helldivers 1 style Warcraft game, I should say. They tried to make a Warcraft game similar to God of War, which I would still love to see that. And a Battlefield like StarCraft FPS. And we have heard that there is a new FPS in development at Blizzard. We have heard that over the last few weeks. There have been job postings for it. I look at this and it's probably like, okay, it's probably a good thing that several of these were canceled, to be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I particularly am intrigued by Andromeda, which was the God of War style Warcraft game. Obviously, a StarCraft FPS is always going to get me interested. Those are the two that I feel like, and the Hades, the original version of Diablo 4, I think all three of those would have been slam dunks.
Yeah.
Odyssey is the most recent canceled game. That is the one that was canceled earlier this year.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that was the survival game.
Right. And they laid off like what? God.
A lot of people.
Too many people.
Too many people.
Man, God, layoffs.
Too many cooks, one would say.
Oh, Josh, why?
Man, I don't know, but this has just been a disaster over there for a long time. And then I've got a quote here from when he was on, I'm trying to remember what show he was on when he talked about this. Spawnwave. He was on Spawnwave, and he had a direct quote about Xbox. This is quoted directly from Jason Schreier, and it is his personal opinion based on what he has heard. Now, it's kind of where I want to like end our conversation tonight, I guess, is talking about this. Xbox is such a mess right now. I feel like their plan is changing every single year. Right now, they're talking about teasing handhelds over and over again, but who knows? A year ago, they said Indiana Jones was never coming to PlayStation, so they change their minds every month. They're just a disaster over there. It's really sad. Um,
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with him. I feel
I don't
like,
either.
I mean, you look at the Hi-Fi Rush situation in general, like
That is probably the biggest indicator for me.
because like, Matt Booty says they need games like Hi-Fi Rush that don't necessarily need to sell millions of copies, but are prestigious and win awards. And then Microsoft turns around and closes the studio down, and then it's like, what's going on, right? And then on one hand, the Indiana Jones thing, because that was in the FTC hearing where like they brought Indiana Jones up as an exclusive because Spider-Man was an exclusive to PlayStation, and they were like, well, we need to battle exclusives with exclusives, and here's what we're doing and whatever, right? And it just feels like there's nobody's on the same page over there. Everybody just kind of feels like they're doing what they don't know what the other hand is doing, and so it also just feels like Microsoft is taking over Xbox at this point too, and like there's like a lot of headbutting over there, right? So I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of forced decisions being made over there too, where it kind of feels like maybe Xbox leadership has some sort of plan, but Microsoft's, penny pinchers are like, you got to do this, you got to do this, let's do this because it's going to make us more money. And I don't know. It's the snowball effect from the Activision deal, Josh.
Yeah, and that's probably the most damning part of this is also like Xbox was kind of allowed to exist and be its own thing for so long because it was
Mm-hmm.
such a small part of the business. They've spent so much money on fucking Activision and Bethesda though that now they have to produce results. And
Yeah.
like I'll never forget the stories that we got during the Xbox One era, especially in the early years when Phil Spencer first took over, about how he basically had to beg Satya Nadella not to get rid of them, and he was allowed to put his plan into play, which involved them getting a bunch of studios, conceding that generation, focusing on cloud, things like that. And I can't help but feel that he got sabotaged at just about every goddamn turn.
Yeah.
Internally, I do think that the Bethesda move was his choice. I do truly think that was a Phil thing. I do not think I still to this day do not think the Activision thing was something they actually wanted to do at
Yeah.
Xbox. That reeks of corporate interference to me, and it always will.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just I can't understand how somebody who actually seems to be one of the very few executives who actually cares about video games and plays video games would actually want that to happen.
Right.
Now, I think the move would have been like wait and see if Activision Blizzard starts fracturing apart, and when they do, hey, scoop up Toys for Bob, scoop up Blizzard, things like that.
Yeah.
Blizzard could have continued to exist on their own. Let's be totally honest.
Yeah.
Activision itself would have fallen apart and fractured, but even they kind of would have been able to hold together because of Call of Duty alone. They would
Mm-hmm.
have sold off some franchises. They would have sold off IP rights like Crash Bandicoot or Spyro or something, which, for being honest, I'd rather those rights be in the hands of somebody like Nintendo anyways. Like, or Sony, go back to where you originally were from. It's maddening to me that you see all this and that this keeps happening, because I feel like we have to have this conversation every couple months about how horribly managed things are over there. And at a certain point, I can't give Phil Spencer the benefit of the doubt anymore. As much as I like the guy, this does fall on him and Matt Booty. Like a lot of this does. We've said this all year long, like through the cycles of layoffs. Like this falls on them. Even if they weren't the ones who made the decision to buy Activision, they now have to. They're the ones who have to pay the price for it. Unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know who on earth you put in charge over there that would be better than, Phil.
I mean,
Matt
who's
certainly
gonna
would
want
be.
that? Who's gonna want that job at this point, too?
Exactly.
Right?
Well, that's the thing. And it's like, it's such a good thing that that Sarah kind of worked her way up
Yeah.
to that position, because I don't think she'd want to be involved at this point.
Mm-hmm. I
I think there's so many talented studio heads is the problem, but like, I feel like Microsoft is the one that just keeps getting in the way of what they want to do over there. Like I see the comparison all the time of, oh, they don't even know how to begin. And like, yes, part of this was in those court talks. They don't even know how to begin to make a game on the level of The Last of Us or Breath of the Wild. And it's like, man, you're talking about two of maybe the greatest games of all time. That's like your examples. Like, yeah, if you're shooting for that, it's going to be hard. Guess what? They had a game that was as culturally relevant as those and that is as good as those, and it's called Halo.
Yeah.
It's called Gears of War. Like, those games revolutionized the way we thought about first person and third person shooters, respectfully.
Yeah.
You know, Forza has changed the way we think about racing sims.
Yeah.
There
Sorry,
are
go
those.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, there are those games. Like, they have bred those franchises in house. It's just they haven't had a game like that in a long time. It's frustrating because I think like their smaller games have been so fucking good this generation. For several years now, they've just killed it. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Pentiment, Tell Me Why, Minecraft Dungeons, like those are all excellent games.
Yeah.
Grounded, like those are all excellent games. Those are all smaller franchises, and not everything has to be this mega hit. You know, Sea of Thieves was maligned for how long, and now it's one of the most popular games they've ever made. Like, okay, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, and I need more gamers and more executives to understand that.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this while you were talking just now, and by a lot, I mean it just came to me, Josh. Just came to me.
I hear you.
I almost feel like Activision Blizzard should be treated as a separate entity from Xbox at this point. Like,
I do think that as well.
I think, you know, Microsoft owns the Xbox brand and they own the Activision Blizzard brand, but they should not be interacting the way that they are interacting now, right? Like, they should not be under the Xbox kind of game studios leadership. I think they need to be under their own leadership. And I think that would have maybe, I don't want to say stopped the bleeding, but like it would have been a massive kind of bandage over this problem. Because at the end of the day, I think that is the problem. And I think Activision Blizzard should have just been Activision Blizzard and Microsoft owns them, and Xbox Game Studios should have been left as is. I mean, with Bethesda, I guess, but
yeah.
You know, because I think it's too much for them to handle now. And, you know, obviously having this all under one umbrella is too much. And there's a lot of push and pull, and there's a lot of just bad decision making, changing, you know, like decision changing, you know, all these things. And it sucks to watch a brand like this that we've been fans of for almost 25 years at this point, like, going through this, because they have the pieces. They have all the pieces, right? If you separate Activision Blizzard and you just put them over here for a second, they have all the pieces, man. They have the studios. They have the games now. They finally have the games. They have the RPGs. They have the shooters. They have the racing games. They have the smaller titles. They have.
You basically just don't have. I don't think you have that one killer game is the problem. You don't have that. You don't have that Naughty Dog or Santa Monica level game yet,
right?
And that's fine.
But I mean, like, you look at the way E-Day seems to be turning out. That could be maybe not on that level, but that could be the relevant Xbox game. Or you look at the way Halo is going now. Like, Halo could be back, and right?
I think they have plenty of those games, like you're saying. I guess that when I say that, I mean like something that it has to be like what we stereotypically think of. It needs to be a third-person action adventure narrative game, you know. And Xbox just doesn't have a lot of those. Like, Hellblade was supposed to be that moment this year, right? And I think that depending on who you talk to, like, I know you really liked it. I fall on a different side of the spectrum. Like, it's not even gonna sniff my top 10 this year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't think it's. I really loved it for reasons that aren't comparing it to The Last of Us or God of War, right? There's something very different about that game that I connected with, but I agree with you. It is not the game that's on the level of that. It potentially at someday it could be, right? But this one was not it.
I almost wonder if you know, they've got basically every other genre of game. It's just like they need better QA, they need better, I don't know, just development cycles. Like it's just ridiculous. And it's a Microsoft problem as a whole across the board.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single exclusive they've released that's like bigger than Pentiment or Grounded that has not had significant issues this generation.
Mm-hmm.
And even going back to last generation, like, you see some of these studios doing games that are unlike anything they've done before. Like Clockwork Revolution, I think is going to be really special. I
Mm-hmm.
think Indiana Jones is going to be really special.
Yeah.
Avowed looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
These are all games that I think have the potential to be released. I mean, Fable is coming from a fucking race car game company. Like,
Right. And it looks
you,
great.
yeah, you want to talk about games that can flip the script and flip the narrative. Like, I still think Perfect Art can be that game,
Yeah.
and I look at the talent that they have here. It's just you're risking losing that talent the more you don't cultivate them and the more you don't let them be creatives, and I need the suits to understand this because you're going to be the reason that the brand falls apart, not the people working there. It's going to be the, hotshot accountant with a fucking spreadsheet that wants to reduce, the spend by like zero point 0.02 percentage points. Like, I cannot imagine that closing Tango, Roundhouse, Alpha Dog, and Arcane Austin, maybe Arcane Austin, like actually saved you money.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that actually saved you anyway. You closed down a team of like 10 people, 30 people, 100 something people, and I think like 100 people at Tango, maybe.
Right.
Like Tango was actually probably a lot smaller than that, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So like, the fuck are y'all doing?
Right. Yeah.
All to make sure that we buy the Candy Crush devs.
I know. God.
Because money.
Right. It's just, man.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if say Phil, say Xbox leadership team was not a part of Microsoft, how different things would be. Obviously, they wouldn't have the money to buy all these studios. I'm just saying hypothetically, like how different things would be if Microsoft wasn't there controlling, if they if the Xbox brand was spun out at some point, right? Like, I don't know, man. I'm just really frustrated to the point where like I don't even know what to say, because you can like any Xbox fan can point at some of these decisions and just be like, why did you do that? Why did you do this? Why did you do this? And I'm not just talking about recently. I'm talking like the last 10 or 12 years, like since the Xbox One launched, right? I mean, since they revealed it ultimately. Like, why would you do that? This is not what we want. Why are you doing this? And ultimately, I know that's such a small percentage of the people who play games, and people just want to come home and play Call of Duty or Madden or GTA or FIFA, or maybe they have Game Pass and they want to try this game or that game, and they don't care, and they don't even know any of this is going on, right? But like, God, it's so frustrating.
It's not great.
I have a sign for Xbox. Josh, can you see this in the webcam?
Please don't die. Yeah.
You see that?
Because it does feel like this next console is like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this is it, or you're gonna just become a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And like, not that there's any, I want to be really clear, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, look at, Sega. It was really rough for several years for Sega, and they have really,
they've turned it around.
They turned it around, and a lot of that was getting RGG and Atlas under their banner.
Well, I mean, I think it started when Sammy bought them, right? And then they had the I mean, it's a Microsoft situation where like they could afford to go out and say, "Oh, we see Atlas is growing. Let's get in on that before they, explode." Or look at RGG, like Yakuza could be a thing. Like, let's make it a thing. And they went in and scooped them up, and Phantasy Star has taken off in its own weird niche, right? And it's Sega's done well. Sega has done well.
So Sega's done very, very well. Yeah. I just find myself really, really frustrated thinking about what could be for the Xbox brand
Yeah.
and ultimately like where they've gone with it. And it's like it's not that I think that Xbox is like gonna cease to exist or anything like that. Like I think funny enough, I think that the slate of games that they have for, 2025 and beyond really is exciting. Like I think I won't even go that far. Like I'll start with, I'll start with December. Indiana Jones kind of kicks it off for me.
Hmm.
You've got Indy just between now and next summer. You've
Hmm.
got Black Ops 6, you've got Indy, you've got Flight Sim. Those three are still to come this year.
Hmm.
You've got Avowed, you've got Fable, you've got South of Midnight, you've got Towerborn. Like you've got games that I think will be exciting. It's just a matter of like how exciting, how good are they going to be? You got Doom: The Dark Ages coming. Maybe later on next year you get State of Decay 3. Maybe you get, E-Day, maybe Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
We know about OD is coming, Blade is coming. Like, yeah, you're probably backing up truckloads of money to get the Blade to get the Blade rights. We probably backed up a metric fuck ton to get a Kojima game, at least as a timed exclusive.
Right.
Like down the line, you've got more coming from Fallout and Elder Scrolls, whenever that is. Hopefully, I won't be in a nursing home by then. But like you've got these games coming, and it's just like, oh, we always said we just had to get to that point. It just shouldn't have taken us. We lost the back half of the Xbox One generation,
Hmm.
and outside of like one really good year this gen, we really haven't had anything else. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like Starfield was supposed to be this mega hit, and instead it was just like it was kind of okay.
Yeah.
Like, and that's fine. Like it's totally fine for a game to be like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. Like that's totally fine. It's just
Right.
we have this all or nothing mentality, and that ultimately is going to tank on top of the board's decisions. That's going to tank Xbox.
Yeah.
It's not just enough to have, oh, we have pretty good games now. No, you have to have a couple years like PlayStation had during the PS4 gen, where we went from being like, oh yeah, PlayStation exclusives are like kind of fine outside of like Uncharted and The Last of Us, to holy shit, every time one of these comes out, it's an event.
Yeah. I mean, it's you look at PlayStation, you look at Nintendo. I mean, even Mario Party is an event now. Like,
Yeah.
come on, I mean, and I know like Nintendo fans are very different from
And
other.
kids and everything
Yeah,
else. Yeah.
but like, come on, Mario Party? Are you kidding? Nobody cares about Mario Party. That thing's gonna sell 12 million units. Ugh. I'm revved up, Josh.
I can tell.
um, but it like you said, it shouldn't have taken this long, and it sucks that we have finally like have the games and the studios and the interesting titles, and it's just like, well, half the audience is like, well, they're going to go to PlayStation eventually, or
Yeah.
they're all coming to PC, or I mean, which is fine. I don't care that they're coming to PC, right? Like console and PC gamers are very different, but it's just like, gosh, there's like everybody's like, there's really no reason to buy an Xbox, and I'm like, I don't know if I can argue that at this point. Like I love the Series X. I think the backwards compatibility is awesome. I think it's the best offering of the best way to play older games. I think the user experience is great. I think the store is great. I think the
Yeah.
online is awesome. Like Game Pass is great. Like the foundation of the experience is there, and it's just like I don't know, man. I don't know. I need to stop talking because I'm going to ramble for another hour about this.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was an interesting observation from Jason Schreier, because I think that's like what a lot of us are thinking too.
Yeah,
And
100%.
just that, it does seem like a mess. Like nobody really knows where we're going. I mean, like it's been just a drastic about face, like from, yeah, our games are never going to be multi-platform, to earlier this year, you got 4 games happening. And then all summer you've got the rumors of, Forza and things like that. And then like Indiana Jones is announced out of nowhere as the one that's coming to PS5. And it's like, oh shit, that game isn't even out yet.
Right.
Like you haven't even given it a chance to see if it's going to recoup.
And
I'm
on
like,
and it's going to run best on PS4 PS5 Pro because
yep. Yep. So, like, I mean, I've seen people, the same people who, by the way, claim that, and you can't have it both ways. Like, you
No,
can't say Xbox has no games and then get really excited when these games come to PlayStation. Like,
oh,
well,
I
this
know.
this is a game that I wanted to play. Like, I've seen the jokes about Avowed. Like, people are like, oh, I'm just gonna wait till it comes to PlayStation and play it best. Like, maybe shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Like, just the fanboy nonsense is so tiring from both sides of this.
yeah,
Like, I'm so over fanboys. Like, hey, some of us just want to play good fucking games, regardless of what the platform is.
right.
Like, yeah, I may prefer one gamepad or one UI over the other, but holy shit, I'm not gonna sit here and protest and not playing a game until it comes to my specific plastic box.
Right. I didn't sit here and like buy Ghost of Tsushima on PC because I prefer the Xbox controller. I'd gonna,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. No, I'm with you. I think the fanboyism is it's clear the domination of the fanboyism has clearly done something to
it's
sway.
clearly affected things.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
it's a fucking mess, dude.
it is, and I'm sad that it's come to that. Because Xbox is a great brand and has a great service and great games, and
Yep.
you know,
Just horrible accountant mismanaging has been
yeah,
just fucking them.
right. So
All right, Corey, get me out of here. I'm
yeah,
gonna keep getting angry.
I know I'm all right. Yeah, I know. Anyways, great discussion. I mean, Halo's back.
Halo's back, man. If nothing else, Halo is back.
And we're back. And you're back here listening to us on Xbox Casuals. You can catch us every other week. You can listen to Tower Casuals, our Destiny podcast, on Fridays. When are we switching
This will be switching next week. Next Thursday will be our first time releasing this. Actually, next Friday will be our first time releasing it on a Friday. We're going to be switching the shows to every other week for a time to see how we enjoy it.
Yeah. Especially because of the Destiny stuff, right? So
yeah, Destiny stuff has not just necessarily slowed, but just it's the release schedules are really weird with everything. We've got the holidays coming up. We're gonna see how we like it, and of course, this kind of lets us get in better position to plan how we're gonna do things with Frontiers and with Apollo coming out next year with one season and one expansion every 6 months. That's a little hard to cover. So
yeah. So look for us. You can catch me and Josh every Friday on something casual. Josh, where can we find you?
Twitter, Josh_Finn, 2 N's, still there.
Still there.
Regretting every minute of it, but I'm still there.
Yeah, don't worry. You'll be seeing him yell about the Mavs in about a month and a half now. When season starts.
Season starts in 2 weeks.
Oh,
I was watching
really
preseason tonight.
Oh, God, it is October, isn't it? Jeez,
I was watching preseason tonight. Mavs were playing their first preseason game tonight.
Oh, I forgot that it's already October.
Yeah, I think the home opener is like the 24th or something for us.
Yeah, dang.
Yeah, dang. We play the Spurs and Wemby game 1.
Nice.
Yep, October the 24th.
Well, you can find me at I am Corey HD on them socials. I will be complaining about the Browns while I cheer on the Guardians and the Cavs this October.
God.
I don't want to talk about the Browns anymore. Shut up, Josh. Oh, man. Did you hear what Stephen A. Smith said about Deshaun Watson?
No, but tell me after.
No, I'm going to say it now. He said, somebody should arrest Deshaun Watson for being awful. And I'm like, well, that means 2 things at this point, but
Jesus.
Anyways, so I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.